We are live, Chris.
All right, brother, let's do it. What you got?
Yeah. Hey, so we got Trent Petty on here. So the executive director for the Ranger Association, and it's we got currently have Best Ranger going on this week. So we wanted to get him on board and just talk about just do a quick deep dive about what that is. How you compete, what type of athletes compete in it. How it's run, how it's planned. Where all that kind of thing. So we decided to, we thought Trent would be a great, I've known Trent for a long time too. So he's a high caliber person, just a great human being and just a good, just a good dude. So to have him on here and then tell the story of what Base Ranger is and give us some inside behind the scenes look is something to be pretty awesome. So I guess I'll just turn it over to Trenton and say, hey, Trent, just give us a little bit of who you are, and then we'll just kick right into the deep dive.
I appreciate it. Thanks for that. Appreciate those kind words. So Best Ranger, most people, in the Ranger community are very in depth in knowing the Best Ranger competition. Just, it's the 42nd year that we've had it going on. And, it's always been a great event. It started originally with the Super 12 Ranger instructors that did the first competition. And then it grew from there. Probably from 1982 to 1999, it was strictly kind of an Army competition. It was Army resourced. It was ARTB ran. And then in 1999, 2000, we had Colonel Colonel Hazen Barron, who actually he reached out. He wanted to see, like, how can we make Best Ranger a bigger show for everybody, not just your normal M4s and stuff like that. Like, how can we make it bigger? So he reached out. They had the Chairborne Rangers at the time, and then he reached out to this college girl named Candace Bryan at the time, and this 1999 2000 was like, hey, you like working with nonprofits, or you're studying nonprofits, how can we make Best Ranger better? And so that's when the National Ranger Association was created. So that's what I'm the executive director of. It's a public-private relationship between the ARTB and the National Ranger Association, because we were like, how can we make Best Ranger huge? And so what Candace and the TNRA did in the 1999-2000 timeframe is they started reaching out to supporters and these companies, because we all know, as like Army soldiers, we can't go to a company and say, hey, can you give me 6 brand new staccatos? And I would like to keep those, by the way. We can't do that. Ethics will prevent that. So what they did was they created this nonprofit, the National Ranger Association, and that National Ranger Association started reaching out to companies and getting companies involved. And what that has gone to is she ran that ship all the way until I think it was around 2017 when she passed it off to Travis Phoenix, who was kind of in the same position as me. He was an S5 out of ARTB. He used to be in a liaison between ARTB and the National Ranger Association. And Candace was stepping down so she could do some more personal life stuff. And Travis stepped in the role, and he took it to the next level, making it bigger, better, faster, more companies. And last year, I took over the Best Ranger competition 8 weeks before Best Ranger to resource it. And I started trying to bring in new companies, right? Because one of the things you need is like young blood, right? So Candace did it for so long. Travis did it for 7 years, and then you have to try to get some new blood in there. So that's when I took over. And now we have what we call Best Ranger last year and this year, which is now on a scale that's, you're seeing bigger, stronger, faster competitors. You're seeing, the caliber of competitors is getting better. The competition's getting bigger. And then on top of that, the prizes are so crazy that now the guys that may not have competed in the past are like, well, crap, if I'm going to walk away with $100,000 in guns, I might as well throw my hat. Like, worst case scenario is I die trying to do it. But at least I'll walk away with something. So that's kind of where we're at now, is turning Best Ranger into something that not just the Ranger community knows a lot about, but something that the Army and the civilian world really starts to represent. And so we're on a path to hopefully in the next year or so really expand it even more. So
Trent, do you go around to like the different divisions and talk this to the command, or is that something? I mean, are you guys? I know I know each division selects like their best, like whatever they have tryouts at their own level, but do you guys as association go around to each of the divisions and kind of communicate your guys' intent on best ranger, I guess? Is that something you guys do?
Not until this year. So, one of the reasons I took over as the director after Travis stepped down, Candace came back for a year to help us transition to a new director. And then unfortunately that director made it about 6 months and then he decided it wasn't for him. So when I took over, I had my own kind of vision of what I wanted Best Ranger to be. Best Ranger has always been something where we raise a lot of money so that we can run Best Ranger, we can run Ranger Hall of Fame, and then we can also run the distinguished members of the brigade and support the ARTV in any way possible. And what I saw when I took over was like there's just a lot left on the table, a lot left on the field for what we could be doing for the community as a whole. So I started doing a few new things. So one of the new things we did this year, we collaborated with EA Entertainment, which is a very, very large company.
Yeah.
And they made a very nice donation. Along with on the Battlefield 6 game, we released a Ranger Lead the Way bundle, which brought a lot more eyes, and it's like the most popular bundle in the game now. Well, with those things, I was talking with EA. We talked about doing podcasts. We talked about updating the live stream and how we wanted to do things to get this more visual. So part of that is I wanted to start going to the units, right? Because everybody wants to know, like, why does Ranger Regiment win every year? Well, when the war was going on, sometimes, people that may have competed didn't have a chance to compete. Like Jerry, you know how it is. We were deployed an ungodly amount of time. So it's like, do you really want to train up for a competition when you're, on your downtime and you might be deploying again, So it kind of missed some of those things. And Regiment had won 4 years in a row after last year. So this year being the 5th year that they could win again, I was like, how do we show the audience the difference between what Ranger Regiment does and what the 82nd Airborne or the 101st do, right? So I started a podcast, Behind the Scenes Best Ranger, and it's sponsored by EA Entertainment. And that's when I started traveling. I think the first unit I went to was West Point. And that was really just because, Chauncey Tillery, Major Tillery's out there, and, he's my White Falcon, roommate from when I was a private. I made him look like a superstar because I was always getting scuffed up. And so he's now a major up in West Point. And I was like, hey, I know you're wanting to coach this year. And he competed a couple of years ago. And so he's like,
I was at West Point with him when he competed. I remember him going away from that.
Yeah. And one of the things that he saw from West Point was like, their train up is not the same as what Regiment gets, right? So I was like, how do we highlight this? Because West Pointers, for example, you got a bunch of officers that are teaching every day. If a cadet gets a chance to compete, he's got class, and then he's still got to find time to compete, and they don't have a traditional coach that's with them year in, year out, creating a system. And so Tillery really wanted to give West Point that chance since he had competed before. So I flew out to West Point. I met with them, kind of talked with them a little bit about what Best Ranger was going to be this year, and then just did a little bit of video and podcast to just kind of show the difference. Not every unit has the chance to have unlimited funds. Not every unit has unlimited resources. West Point, for example, let's talk about like ranges, like where they're going to practice 3-gun or machine gun. So it's like, okay, so there's some pretty badass teams that have won year after year, but what about these teams that aren't winning every year? Like, what's the difference? So I went to West Point. That was a super cool experience. Got to see what they were doing. And I hands down to those guys, like to be able to teach the next level, like the next leaders of the Army, but then still take your time as a major. I think right now they have 2 majors in it this year. To be a major and still be like, I'm still going to compete. It's a young man's game, but I'm still going to go. I'm also going to set the example for my lieutenants and cadets. So then I went to the 82nd Airborne, which is, the greatest unit in the Army. And so when I went over there, I was honestly a little bit disappointed. I know this is going to sound bad. So I'm traveling to Fort Bragg and I'm excited because I'm like, I'm going to my home turf. Like, this is where the greatest of the great are. And so as I get there,
can I just say I'm not surprised?
So I get there and I think, okay, I'm going to be blown away, right? They're ready because when I was a pre-ranger instructor at Fort Bragg back in 2014, we ran the Best Ranger tryouts out there. We had Master Sergeant Stackpole came out, former
Mhm.
winner, set a system, and 82nd did really well that year. The next year they did even better when Master Sergeant Stackpole decided to compete himself again, and I think they took second place. You know, and so I was like, okay, well, so what is going on? Like, it's not just because Stackpole's a freak and he's going to finish. Like, there's a system he's using. Regiment has a system they're using, and what I saw at the 82nd was I showed up and I'm like, call the first person. I'm like, hey, I was told you're the coach of the 82nd team. I would like to link up so I can get some footage of you guys trying out and maybe do, a podcast with you. And the first guy I get is like, yeah, I'm not really a coach. I'm an advisor. This guy's the coach. So, all right, cool. Hey man, I hear you're the coach. Yeah, I'm an advisor. This guy's the coach. So I finally get to the coach, which was what's it? The Advanced Airborne School Commander. Like the guy running USACE is the coach. And I get to him and I'm like, all right, sir, like, let's talk about your program. He's like, well, actually, I'm the coach, but I use the advisors. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And
Yeah.
so, and so, one year, First Brigade was tasked with running the tryouts and train up. This year, Second Brigade's tasked with running the tryouts and train up. So then that's when I pulled some of the competitors aside. I was like, look, that's this young lieutenant who's like eager to compete and stuff. I was like, look, man, I was like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm seeing some other teams, and it's not that you guys can't compete, but if you guys don't work your system out, you're not going to be competitive. And you, as a lieutenant, and everybody's looking to you over here. There's NCOs, young NCOs, and stuff like that. But this lieutenant I could see was taking charge of kind of the crew. I was like, hey, man, like it's going to be on you to hold accountability because I've seen it happen in the 82nd many times. I had a squad leader when I was a platoon sergeant in the 82nd who was trained up for Best Ranger. And then right before Best Ranger was like, actually, I'm in great shape. I'm going to go to Delta Selection instead. Went over to Delta Selection. He's been an operator for a long time. So good for him. He made the right choice. But when you're training up for sometimes October, November to April, it's hard to see that finish line. So if you don't have someone holding you accountable and holding you in a system, it starts to fall off.
Yeah.
But we had a great time at the 82nd. They adjusted their program, did a really fun podcast with them. And then I started talking to some of the other teams. I went out to the Old Guard, met with Sergeant Major Rocky. He's a phenomenal leader. I have a lot of respect for him. Like that guy last year as a sergeant major couldn't get some of his NCOs to compete. So he just threw it down himself. He's like, all right, I'm going to go do it. And like 100% props to it. And then this year, because him as a enlisted leader went and did that, they had a bunch of people come out. When I went to their tryouts, they had about 8 or 9 dudes trying out for their team. And like they had a good system. They were going it. And I gave them my number. I was like, hey, call me. I can't give you information about the competition that's going to hurt the credibility, but I can advise you, just like I'll give any other team some advice on some things that you should do and shouldn't do. So that kind of gave me some hope. And then, Regiment, I didn't go talk to them just because they're right here and I know the coach and stuff, but with them, they have a system. Nick Owens has been their coach for 10 years, so they do their train up and then they come all from the different battalions to regiment in January to do their tryouts. And then Nick puts them in the system. Now they're in the system and they are in that system until BRC ends. Yeah. And so, which I get it. Like Sergeant Major Johnson up at 10th Mountain, he made the point, like, we're not in war as much anymore. So we should be winning Best Ranger. And I agree. Like if you're a Ranger in Ranger Regiment and you have the time, you should be setting the standard, but it'll be fun to see this year.
I think it depends on, like you just said, Sergeant Major Johnson too. It depends on like the division Sergeant Major too, or like to put emphasis on it. I know when we were at 10th Mountain Division, I think it was like a tasker and they pulled some lieutenants out. They went to life fighter school or something and never saw them again or whatever. And people fought to like, hey, we got to give these guys time to train up versus mission. And yeah, man, I can see how difficult that is, unless outside of like Ranger Regiment, where that's where like, you have to have, I'm sure, like, better than me, there's probably an expectation that they have to have teams finish within top 5 or 10. It's probably pressure too, but yeah, man, it's crazy. I wish they would put more emphasis on it. I think, sending a team to that kind of, competition and doing well, that's good on your division, man, I think. So,
well, and like Best Ranger, at the end of the day, you have all these sponsors, all these supporters, right? All these companies. Like never in my life did I ever think I'd be having dinner with the CEO of Staccato. Like, getting invited to the Glock freaking building to get a tour of Glock and stuff like that. But these companies also, like, they see who wins, so now they want to support those teams too. Like, they're going to support Best Ranger and they support it through me. But there's companies that are reaching directly out to Regiment to be like, hey, if you like, here's all my boots, like, wear my boots, or here's this, use it, like, it'll help you out.
Yeah.
So you have things, it's better for your unit. It brings like to your unit,
Yeah.
like, hey, this is our caliber, because everybody thinks Delta's this, and SF is this, and Regiment's this. Well, in my time in the 82nd, I met some dudes that I would put up against anybody, and I'm guarantee you there's,
Yeah.
Chris has probably had guys from 173rd that he'd put against anybody,
Well, there's some good
so.
National Guard teams out there too, right? I mean,
Mhm.
there's like some,
There
teams that you never heard of, like that are pretty
Yeah.
good at some things.
So my question for you is really like, how do we fix the disparity in the teams, right? Because even now, well, maybe not right now because we got some shit going on overseas again. But I remember crap, the West Point football player that we had, Jerry, down
Hmm.
in the Bravo Company. I think it was in Bravo
Yeah.
Company. Big, tall dude. Really, really wanted to go and do Best Ranger competition, but we were on the patch chart to go to Afghanistan, and so I had to have a talk with him, and I was willing to support it, but I had to lay it out for him that, hey, we are potentially going at this point to what we think we're going to do, and we end up doing is closing down Afghanistan. I don't know if you deploy somewhere else again. And so if you're looking at your long term best ranger competition or deployment, which one do you think is better for you? Not even talking about what's better for the unit, right? So that's number one. But then number two, historically speaking, because I've stolen stuff from Ranger Regiment, like workout plans and stuff like that. Because 173rd, you have a bit of a pipeline with ARTB and then with Regiment, where we would get guys that would. My first sergeant, he bounced back and forth between ARTB and 173rd probably 3 different times. Right, he'd do one, then he'd go back. He'd do that, and then he'd go back. You guys have the ability with resources, both just pure gym equipment, coaching, dietitians, all of those things. SF has that, Delta has that. 82nd has it to a good extent now. But some of these others, right, the whole H2F program that the military talks about, um, it doesn't filter down yet to all of those. So when you look at like the National Guard guys or you look at the 10th Mountain guys, um, they might have a quote unquote coach, but they're really just kind of doing it on their own. They
Yeah.
don't have those resources. Just curious your thoughts on that. Like how I see that as a systemic problem, not just best ranger competition, but like big army, right? Best ranger competition is just a focal point of look, I expect regiment to do well. I expect the SF team or the Delta team to do well because they have those resources, because they have to be physically fit. It's usually an anomaly if somebody else wins, or it should be.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it really is, because at the end of the day, it does come down to a lot of resources and priorities, right? If you
Yeah.
notice, for a while there, Regiment didn't win a bunch, and that was because their priority wasn't Best Ranger.
Yeah.
Brett Johnson
Mhm.
kind of, Sergeant Major
Yeah.
Johnson kind of changed that lane for them because the deployments had slowed down. Um, and it kind of is one of those things, like, as a soldier, you kind of got to choose, do I want to represent my unit or do I want to go on a deployment sometimes, and it's a hard thing because at the end of the day we all join to fight for our country and do these things. But
Sure.
one thing and this is just my opinion from my years in the Army was the, and this is earlier too, right? Like I'm not talking about current days. I mean, it looks like we're going to start being deployed again
Yeah.
here soon. But like in my day, it was kind of like, I remember leaving the 82nd and going to recruiting and thinking, man, I went to Iraq for like 3 straight years. I never got to go to Afghanistan. Bummer. I'm going to
Mhm.
go to recruiting and come back and Afghanistan's going to be gone. Nah, I got out of recruiting in
Yeah.
November of 2011 and I was in Afghanistan in February of 2012. So it's like, I know we joined to fight the war and stuff, but you can
Yeah.
the deployments will be there or they'll come, or they won't. But at the end of the day, you signed up to represent your country,
Yeah.
to represent the guys to your left and right, and be prepared to go to war. Not that you have to go to war. You're prepared to go to war if you need to be. And I think training up for Best Ranger too, making that a priority, only makes you a better soldier in the first place. Like you
Mhm.
can't tell me a guy that trains up for Best Ranger and comes out of Best Ranger can't turn around and deploy and be the top guy in his unit because he
Yeah.
can't. So I think it builds pride within that person, but then pride within that unit too, because a lot of times, like if you do make that a priority, like if you were in the 101st and you come back and you just won, right? You now have that swag behind you. You have that, all right,
Mhm.
we just beat the big boys. Now, if you get on a deployment, you can't tell me that's going to give you a little bit more confidence going on that deployment because I just beat the best of the best, right? So like focus on making yourself better, and that in turn
Yeah.
makes the unit better. And if the unit prioritizes showcasing their abilities at Best Ranger with their best capabilities, that's going to in turn change the morale and just change the mentality of the people that are around that soldier. It may not make the whole
Yeah.
division better or the company or brigade, but it's going to make those individuals right around him. Like if that's a squad leader that goes and wins Best Ranger and comes back, he's going to make the people around him better. And I think
Yeah.
that's a good thing for deployment. So it's just hard to do because at the end of the day, as soldiers, we think deployment first. We think
Mhm.
competitions later.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, I remember going through a phase where I had soldiers as a platoon sergeant that never deployed. They did their 3-4 years and they're like, I joined to deploy, and now they're in depression and they're
Yeah.
sad and stuff. And I'd have to give them the cheesy answer, but I truly believe it. Like, look, man, you joined the Army to be prepared to serve your country when it's time. It's not on you that it wasn't your time, and it's not on you that you didn't get deployed. Were you ready? Did you train up? Did you give 100% every day that you showed up to work? Then you did your job, period.
Yeah.
All right. So, and if you're going to Best Ranger and training up for Best Ranger, first you got to go to Ranger School, which is step one. So that's already setting yourself apart from your peers. But then two, it's doubling down. Like, not only am I going to go to Ranger School and be the best guy in my platoon, like I've been in a bunch of platoons where I was the only Ranger tabbed guy. My
Mhm.
goal as a E7 with a Ranger tab in a platoon was not to be like, I'm better than all of you. For me, it was, I'm not better than any of you, but you guys can be better than
Yeah.
me.
Right.
And that's how I got them to
Yeah.
go to Ranger School, and same thing for Best Ranger. Hey, that Delta Force dude over there is competing in Best Ranger. Go beat him, and you're gonna have the confidence,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
No, that's
think. I
good.
mean, you hit on that too, man. Like, Chris can talk about this too. But like, you don't see a lot of kids trying to go to Rangers. Like, I don't know
Mhm.
what's happening with it, man. But like, when we're our battalion, you're just trying to get guys to go, man. We're just supporting the best you can. Develop a program for them to get ready. You do all these kind of things that set them up for success, and it's just trying to get those
Yeah.
guys to take that step to get into the Ranger Corps, even
yeah.
attempt it, right? So, I don't know, man. That's you know, like you said, I think you say we're the only tab guy in your platoon, or was that just a platoon sergeant, or what?
A few times. I mean, I'll
Yeah.
give you one platoon for example. Like, I don't want to steer too far away from Best Ranger, but just for example, when I was in the 82nd, I was in a Cav squadron. We had a bunch of Ranger tab dudes. I had a great platoon, and I was in a scout unit. And then I got moved over to 2501 in 1st Brigade, which is the redheaded stepchild of 1st Brigade. Let's be real. And then I got put into a platoon, and I don't know if you ever heard about the Tiger getting stolen from Tigerland.
Mm, no.
Okay, so the 82nd went to Tigerland to JRTC, and they unbolted the Tiger from Tigerland and brought
Mm,
it back to Bragg.
go figure.
It was a huge ordeal.
Yeah.
And it ended up on the brigade
Yeah.
sergeant major's like floor just randomly for them to get it back because no one was going to be allowed. The people that hadn't left JRTC weren't going to be allowed to leave. I mean, just true 82nd fashion, you know. Not only were we better than everybody, we're also going to steal your crap. But so then long story short, I got moved over to that platoon. And when I took over that platoon, the mentality was just, hey, everybody looks at us like we're redhead stepchilds. Everybody thinks we're just bad kids. Everybody, their platoon sergeant was Ranger tabbed. He wasn't jump master. He was a dive guy, and he was originally, I think he was in 6th and 4th, and he was a great dude, but he was a little bit more worried about just being, friends with the guys that he was with and actually, leading them in some ways. And it was more just cool to be cool, right? And so when I took over that platoon, my goal was like, how can I get people to be Rangers? How can I get people to be jump masters? I've always been good at getting people to go to Ranger school. And part of it was what I found successful to get people to go to Ranger school was not beat down dudes because I'm a Ranger and not talk about how much better I am because I'm a Ranger.
No.
Honestly, I talked it down a little bit, to be honest with you. Like, hey man, if I can do it, you can do it. Like, and a lot of it was like, yeah, a lot of it was like, and don't put the Ranger tab on a pedestal, but don't be like, I'm going to Ranger school, I'm gonna get this tab, and I'm now the best dude in my platoon. Like, you have the chance to be the best dude on your platoon, but you also have the chance to be the worst dude on your platoon, and that's up to you and your mentality. But Sergeant Major Chavez, who was at ARTB the last couple of years before he left, he was, his goal when he was at ARTB was kind of like peel back the curtains of of Ranger school, because we do ourselves as a Ranger community our own disjustice of trying to make it impossible to get a tab. Oh, you're never going to make it. Like it's I made it, you can't make it, right? He tried to pull back the curtain and be like, look guys, it's not that scary. All right. Like just come and do it and grow and be better. And then don't put it on a pedestal. Just put that as the first step to the ladder you're going to, right? It is a tool for your toolbox that's going to open up doors to so many other things. And I left that platoon. I had 4 young guys that had Ranger tabs, and I had all of my squad leaders were jump masters, right? And that's because I didn't make them believe that they couldn't do it. It was more about like, hey, if I can do it, you can do it, and let me mentor you and grow you to do it. And so that's kind of like the different mentalities you can take. You can either make it sound like I can do this and no one else can, or you can be like, hey, like, come be part of the team. Like, don't be scared of the team. Let me get you to Ranger school, and then let me help you get through Ranger school, right? So that's just kind of the approach I took.
Yeah. So we'll get back to Best Ranger real quick, but if there's a young E3 out there right now, man, he's like swaying on ready to go Ranger school. Like he's your stud. He's doing what he kind of like. What advice would you give him, man, for him to just take that step, or some advice to prep or thing like that? There's a piece of people listening on later, and what is some advice for a young guy like that wants to take that step from you?
For me, it's start training when no one's looking. All right. Don't be the loudest guy training. Because what I've seen a lot of guys, they're like, every year I see that Best Ranger, especially from the RIs, not necessarily in PFCs because we ain't got many here, but I've seen it from some of them too. They see the prize table and they're like, oh my God, I'm going to compete next year. Or they see like the competitor bags. I give a lot of free stuff for competitor bags. That's really cool. And those are just the wrong reasons. Don't verbalize and be like, I'm going to do this. Just start grinding. When you're off work, make working out a priority. Make training a priority. Your Army career could be 20 years, or it could be 4 or 3 or 8. But what can you get out of it in the time that you're going to be in? And you're not going to get a lot out of it by talking. Mm-hmm. And so the best thing you can do is get in the gym and then, start trying to get with other friends and start getting them motivated. Because at the end of the day, if you have a teammate that's training with you and that you're friends with, that's a big thing. Because a lot of these teams that are teammates just got put together, and now they have to build that friendship, but you can make it a goal for yourself and get a buddy to come with you, get a buddy to train with you, and then start building your own program. And you start building that fire for your unit. The unit may not be building it, but you build your own fire for it. And then that way, when Best Ranger comes around, not only are you going to be ready for that tryout at your unit level, but you're going to be able to, make it make a difference within that tryout. So
Yeah.
that would be what I'd say. Start training when nobody's looking.
Yeah.
All right.
I was just talking about like that young,
I like that.
that young E3 that wants to go to Ranger school, like they trying to kick her in the butt to go. But hey, so you said there's a tasking for each brigade to kind of run these things, or is this? I'm pretty sure this is like as soon as Best Ranger's over, you guys are planning for the next Best Ranger, right? So like it's the next day kind of thing, right? So how does a unit get a task to do Best Ranger? Like that's crazy.
So usually, like they don't really get like the units don't get tasked for it. The memorandum will come out from ARTB that hey, we're hosting Best Ranger at this time. We try to get that memo out usually like October timeframe to let units know, hey, this is when your packets due. This is how many team slots you get and those things. And then now the unit will task down to their like Hunter First uses the air assault school for their training. They don't task it to a different brigade. They just use their air assault school.
Yeah. No. What I mean is like, I guess I'm saying like who, like the scenario development, the operational, like, putting this
planning behind
together,
it. Yeah.
the planning behind it. Like I said, I'm sure like when you guys finish this week, you'll start tagging, looking for next year's, right? So like, how does that all work? Like, how do you guys get together and start, hey, this is what we want to do for Best Ranger? Who's actually gets tasked to like putting this all together? Because I'm sure it's just not you and like 5 other dudes or something. It might be, I don't know, but like, how does that all work?
That's what we're trying to get it. That's what we're trying to get it to. Just because I'm the first ever local director, so I'm at every IPR. I don't get paid by the Army or anybody, but I'm out at ARTB 2 to 3 times a week. Right now, I'm out there 5 days a week. Starting tomorrow, I'll be sleeping at ARTB until next Tuesday. But the way it works, it's kind of a unique thing, and this is a very funny topic. So it goes command based, right? So it's always funny because like last year was Colonel Lindsay and Sergeant Major Hartung's first time doing Best Ranger. We always, as the National Ranger Association, we give our in brief to the new command teams like, hey, this is what we are. We're a resource for you. If you want to start planning for Best Ranger, our suggestion is you start doing your IPRs. And then by October, if you have a solid plan, a solid theme, then I can go to AUSA up in DC and I can start talking to companies. Hey, this is what we're looking at for Best Ranger this year. It's like, for example, this year is the 75th anniversary of Best Ranger, right? This is what we're looking at for Best Ranger. These are the items we want. And then now I come back from AUSA. Hey, sir, this is what we got. This is where I can start plugging things into the different ideas we have. And we develop from that. But it's always brigade commander dependent. So there's times when a brigade commander is like, he comes into his seat. Usually it's around like May, June timeframe, which is around Ranger Hall of Fame time. So he's focused on Ranger Hall of Fame. And then he comes out of that. And then we got, ARTB never stops. So a lot of times that commander in that first year of his command doesn't realize how big of a monster BRC is. So we're always playing catch up, right? They're like, okay, yeah, we do this, this, and this. And then we force it. Like we force that year and it happens and it comes out great. And then that commander is usually like, all right, that was great. This year we start IPRs May 17th. And then we start planning. And then his second year is planned amazingly, right? And then he leaves and you get the new colonel in. And it's like, all right, sir. All right, I'm telling you, we need to start early and we need to start fast. And then it's the same thing. It's a 2-year cycle. Luckily, last year, Colonel Lindsay was pretty good. We had some issues with like legal, trying to figure out like, how is Best Ranger legal? Like, what is this nonprofit working with an Army unit?
I could see that blending big time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's words, right? So it's words. So the National Ranger Association, Army is not resourcing any of those special items. The National Ranger Association is resourcing the items, and then we loan them to the Army to use, and then I take it all back. I have a Connex out at ARTB, I have my own building, and it's just full of all kinds of stuff. I'm not giving you a pin to it because trust me, you would want to rate it. But so we get all that back. And then what we don't take back, we give as prizes because we can't give gifts, as we all know. You can't give a gift. Or you can, it's just got to be a really cheap gift. So these are all prizes. So the workaround is, hey, when I went to the 82nd or West Point, I brought them, I had them fitted for Aura rings. I got them OTB boots, some other items for donors that wanted to get their products in their hands earlier. And those were prizes for being selected by their unit to be their teams. Right.
Nice.
So then they come to Best Ranger, and today they signed in, and I give them their competitor bag. The competitor bag is usually like a bag of just goodies. Right. This year I had a full year to resource it, so they got a whole tote and 2 bags.
Nice.
So like it's an ungodly amount of stuff, but those are also prizes for making it to Best Ranger. Like, hey, you're officially part of Best Ranger. Here's your prize for signing in, right? And then we go from there. And then at the Super Supper, those are all prizes for the winners. Now,
Trent, how many guys work with you? Like, how many people do you have to fill these bags and do all this stuff for? How many teams is it this year? How many teams?
There's 61 teams, 122 competitors.
Jeez.
So I have a volunteer board. So previously, and this is where the TNRA and the ARTB relationship really matters, right? So the S5 shop, when I came down to ARTB and I was 3 years from retiring, I was not going to recertify on any of these RI classes. I was pretty done. I was in a bad place in my life when I came down here. So in all honesty, I got fired all the way up to S5. And I was actually on my way out of the brigade. I was headed to the 199th to go teach their pre-ranger, because that's what you do with guys that just aren't going to cut it. And the place I was in my life at the time, I was not in a good place. I got up to brigade and I was doing my interview to leave to go to 199th. And Sergeant Major Chavez was like, man, you seem like you're really talkative. You're a friendly guy. Like, I think you'd be a great S5. And I'm like, what the heck is a S5? And he's like, what would stop you from doing, going to 199th or something? I can't remember what the question was. And I was basically like, well, I'm a recovering alcoholic. So, I mean, there's that. I don't know if you want me around a bunch of lieutenants. So he put me in the S5 shop, and it was probably the greatest thing to ever happen to me, in all honesty, just because the S5 shop, to be in the S5 shop, you have to be selected by the brigade sergeant major and the brigade commander. And then you actually go as the liaison to a couple National Ranger Association meetings. And then the National Ranger Association, which is usually a bunch of old crusty sergeant majors like yourself. And they're like, do we like this guy? Can we trust him?
Yeah, he called you old and crusty.
I know. Wait, I can't get past that. No, I mean, look at
it. So, and then they decide, do we want this guy to be our rep towards ARTB or not? So luckily, after a couple of meetings, they were like, yeah, we like Petty. We want him to be in the S5 shop. We'll see how it goes. So that S5 shop is my person in ARTB. That's usually an E7 who is my liaison to ARTB. Now, when I was in that shop, the director lived in Tennessee. So he wasn't local. So when he wasn't here, I was his representative to the ARTB. And so I was receiving the packages. I was doing all the things as if, the director needed me to do, or ARTB would ask. I would pass it to the board, get it voted on, decide if we're going to do it or not, and whatnot. So when I took over, I'm the first ever local director, which has made it a little bit easier for ARTB because I can go to camp. They don't have to use the liaison as much, which they should. They should still use the liaison, but it just allowed for a little bit more flexibility. And kind of honestly, this year kind of bit me in the butt because last year we knocked out Best Ranger when I took over. We had 8 weeks to prepare for Best Ranger, and we were all on board and we just crushed it. Well, this year they're like, all right, so Petty's going to drive it and we're going to do it. So my S5 shop guys, they tasked them to actually run lanes. So I was like, well, those are my guys. Those are my worker bees. And so they've been tasked doing other things. But luckily, we have a great Ranger community. And I had some volunteers come out to help me pack the bags. Everybody wants to be part of it. Once you've been to a Best Ranger, you just want to help. So I do 99%.
Do they still use recycles holdovers from Ranger School?
So I don't personally. When I was in the S5, the S5 used to get like 6 to 8 recycles for Best Ranger. And let's be real, those recycles that were working for the TNRA during Best Ranger, they live the best life ever. Like, they come to all the socials. We fed them.
Brother, I had to sweep a dirt road, okay, I was a waiter at the event. I didn't get to
Yeah.
eat. I was a waiter at the event. That was my best ranger competition story.
Were
Yeah.
you a second lieutenant, first lieutenant? What'd you?
Second lieutenant.
Yeah,
Yeah, second lieutenant.
it does.
The
I
only
know.
saving grace was it brought me down from Dahlonega, so I wasn't stuck in Dahlonega. So
Oh, nice.
So Trenton, do they? I guess Ranger cadre, right? Is it
Mhm.
a big burden on RTB for this? I know Ranger School's still going on. They got these other things still going on. Like, do they just pull? Is it I don't know how that works. How do they pull those guys to support that event?
So it is pretty tough for especially for fourth RTB. Like,
Yeah,
the biggest pull is for fourth RTB. Like
yeah,
fifth RTB, they got their open house. Sixth RTB, they do their open house, but that's nothing in comparison to Best Ranger. So these RIs, they come out of class. The last class they had graduated March 27th or somewhere around there. I can't remember the exact date, but like the end of March.
yeah,
And Best Ranger is, right here. So they're planning while also running classes and stuff like that. So you have your SPO. So your SPO over at fourth RTB, he does most of the planning along with ART. Like the brigade commander gives his intent. We came out of last Best Ranger and he's like, you know, this is the theme I'm thinking. This is what I want to do. I want to run it like I did this year. And he gives those, parameters. And then whoever they assign as the SPO gets attached with me, and they come with me to DC. They come to SHOT Show in January and help build that plan. And then they'll build the plan. Fourth RTB will work it out. They'll give it to the R6, and then R6 will make his adjustments. So really the heaviest lifting is the SPO for the majority of the year. And then at about November, that's when the RIs really start getting assigned. All right, you're the PI of this lane, you're the AI of this
Mhm.
lane. Then they start doing their detailed planning based off what the SPO has already planned.
yeah,
But every year is a different thing. This year it was kind of a heavy lift, I'll say, for the RIs, and that's not anything on their fault, but there was a huge backlog for Ranger School this year. So they actually started creating an OML so that basically you made it through rap week, but if you were low enough on the OML, you actually didn't start Darby. You actually just waited till the next class, and now you were at the top of the OML and got to start Darby.
Mm.
So you could pass all of rap week and then get put on on recycle status.
Yeah.
Yeah, so because they just had that many people, and then a couple
yeah,
months ago, K1 up at the infantry commandant, he was like, no, we need to get them all in. So just a couple of months ago, not even a couple of months ago, they actually were like, Ranger School's set to be able to have 310 students to start. They actually had over, I think it's either 400 or over 400.
That's
They
good.
actually, yeah. But
Yeah.
in order to facilitate that, it's all hands on deck. They had to create like another Ranger company. It was like Deco, and it was
yeah,
based off of like staff RIs. They actually brought a bunch of RIs from Florida up to assist and be another company at fourth, just so they could get some of this OML watered down, like get them into the
yeah,
course. But that makes it a lot more strenuous for these RIs because instead of walking and then getting the break they normally get, they're walking more rapidly, 3 times in 1 week and stuff like that. So this year was definitely a pretty tough pull for these RIs just because of that. Like
Yeah.
they're trying to prepare for Best Ranger, and then also they got the largest class they've ever seen. So
Mm.
yeah.
Is the events pretty tight? I mean, I don't want you to talk about the one that's going on now, but is it pretty tight hold in what those are? Like there's only so many people that know the events up to that point, right? Or is it just it's out there, right? Because I think they just keep it's an event after event after event, right? And they won't know until they get to the event, or they already know.
so they don't really know until they get to Best Ranger. This year we really wanted to release the plan early. The command team's goal was like, hey, let's release the plan so they can all see the lanes. Now let's level the playing field. You can see the plan ahead of time, stuff like that. Unfortunately, we had some vendors fall through at the last minute, so we weren't able to release the plan early like we wanted to. But
Mhm.
like now that they're here, they're going to go through competitor week. They're going to get to see the lanes, and let's be real, like everything up at Brigade's pretty close knit and fourth RTV, but like if I'm in the 82nd and I know I'm going to compete for best ranger, those guys are calling RIs to try to
like
get
sure.
information. Regiments calling to get information.
Divisions like what is trying to help our guys out.
Yeah. But I mean, that's why this year we were trying to be a lot more just open about it. Today, the commander actually gave them a brief on the breakdown of the scoring, how things are scored. They're going to see all the lanes other than the mystery events, and just a lot more open about it, because Colonel Lindsay had a really unique take on this year. Best Ranger's always been, you get your couple MREs, you're competing, you're just dragging, you don't get no food, all these things, and you're competing, but you're also at a deficit. Colonel Lindsay was like, I want to see who's the best of the best at their best. So this year, if you're taking creatine while training, you are allowed to take creatine during the competition. If you are taking if you're taking pre-workout, bring your pre-workout. The only difference is you got to carry whatever you're going to take. So there's no calorie deficit this year. Colonel Lindsay was like, if they want to bring a freaking box of Snickers and carry it this year, they can carry their box of Snickers.
That's pretty awesome.
Hell, Jared, as long as Jared, you and I could do it.
Yeah, sure. With some Snickers though, probably.
Yeah. And so this year's going to be interesting, because he wants to see who's the best of the best at their best. So
yeah, Trent, can you run through, say, you can, I say you don't want to go too much in this year because I know you guys are doing it now, but like if I was like I was a competitor last year, like I sign in day one, like can you give me like an understanding of what they do? Like what's the
what is the athlete looking at?
What's it looking at for the days? Like what are some of the events, dude? Not the ones that you can't talk, like, you know what I'm saying? Just talk about last year if that's what you want to talk about.
I could talk about this year. It's fine.
Okay.
So they signed in this morning. They all got there at 6 a.m. Right. So they get in, they get, their packets get checked. If they need to swap out an alternate because someone got injured, I think 25th ID this year had an injury, so they had to swap out an alternate. And then they get checked in. Once they're checked in, now it goes into the briefs. The colonel gives them their welcome brief. Cadre does their initial layout, because it's still like Ranger School. You have a packing list that you have to come with, and like it's a mandatory packing list. They get their packing list layout. They get their deficiencies. They have till Thursday to get those deficiencies filled. And then I do my competitor brief, and I give them all their swag and their mandatory care items, because there's certain items that companies give that, we make mandatory for them to carry. A lot of it's beneficial to them. Like you have salty breeches, which is amazing. It's not like putting Vaseline on your thighs to prevent chafing. There's actual medical formula in there to actually prevent stuff. Items like that, we just kind of make them carry for their own well-being. And so we go over that. I give them all their free swag, their t-shirts, all those things. And then they start going through their safety brief with the commander. And then they do their photos, the PAO. Today's kind of just one of those horrible in processing days for everybody. Is there
some wide eye guys like, holy shit, I'm in Best Ranger? Like,
well, and what I love about Best Ranger, and like today's the day you really see a lot of it, is you would think that these guys are coming to compete and be the best of the best, and they're going to be like, I know when I was competing, like I was a really bad platoon sergeant to other platoon sergeants, because like my peers, like you were my peer, but I'm going to destroy you. Like I'm going to make you and your platoon look like trash, because I'm going to make sure, like I'm competitive. Like I want to be the best platoon in the brigade. Right. And so you would think that would happen at Best Ranger, but these guys they're happy to be there. They're, talking, they're all having a good time. They're all sharing information with each other. Like they're just excited to compete. Right. And I think a little bit of it is they're all confident that they're going to win. So like, why be competitive? Because we can be friends, because I'm going to beat you anyways. But you kind of see that around, and the environment's super fun. Everybody's just thankful and excited.
Are they all in bays? Are they all staying in bays through the whole time, or are they all together?
No. So, we were going to put them in bays this year, but I think they ended up, there's some that just stay in the Arslick barracks, and then some might, stay in a hotel or stuff like that. I think this year, I'm pretty sure they're for the most part standing and just to save money on TDY. They're all most of them are all staying on our slick barracks. But they're free to go and come after hours to go get stuff for their packing list and, go do training and stuff like that. So then tomorrow's Wednesday. That's when we'll start to let them go through some of the walkthroughs of the lanes, right? So you have day 1, day 2, day 3, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So Wednesday, Thursday, this year's a shortened competitor week because of the Easter holiday. Normally it would have started on Monday. We started today. So now their competitor week is only Wednesday, Thursday. So tomorrow they're going to go through a lot of the lanes that don't require shooting. So a lot of the shooting lanes will be on Thursday. Try to get real range density for the 3-gun, the buddy team live fire. And then tomorrow is going to be more of like the day stakes type things. You're gonna, the CrossFit, the functional fitness, the map reading, whatever, setting up a mortar, stuff like that. And that's what they'll do all day tomorrow. And there's no like, hey, you got to go to this lane or anything. It's like you go where you want or where you feel like you need more experience and train on the actual items. And then on Thursday will be the range day. Then, you'd think like, oh, they're doing a 3-gun. Well, some of these guys have never seen some of these guns. Like, I'll just give you a rundown of some of the guns I resourced this year. So on the 3-gun on Krilling this year, you're going to have Glock 19Xs, well, technically the Glock 19XV. You're going to have the H&K MR556 A4, straight fresh out of the factory. You're going to have Benelli shotguns. And then on the 4th bay, you're actually going to shoot the new Kalashnikov USA AK-47. So then the sniper range, right? This year, I actually resourced. You ever heard of Steyr Arms from Europe? It's what the British SAS use. So I resourced 4 British SAS sniper SSG M1A2s. So that's a platform that they're not used to because it's made in Europe. But they're trying to get in the game. So they gave me 4 sniper rifles. It was great. Like, these guns they give to us to give to the competitors. What I don't give to the competitors, I give to the cadre afterwards. But so that's the sniper range. They have that along with a guy named Kelly Beal. He started a rifle company called Beal Rifle Arms. He gave us 6 308 gas guns that are like sniper rifles that are just, the backup shooter will have the 308 Kelly Beal, while the main shooter will have the Steyr, and then the buddy team live fire. They got the new 556 from Colt. They got short barreled ones with the new strategic science suppressor on them. And then at the end of the lane, they're going to draw a staccato P4 to take out the last few targets with a Trijicon RMR on them.
Damn, Trent, you're like a weapons expert at this point, bro.
Yeah. Well, and that's
are these guys firing cold? Are they like just grabbing the weapons and firing, or is it something where they have to I don't know, like is it just
they can't adjust the zero, right? So the RIs zero it and all that, like it's zeroed, and then basically they're gonna shoot it at the range, on Thursday and be like, okay, so this is my, windage and everything for the sniper rifle, this is my, all that, and or my dope. And then, they'll go shoot the Glock 19s. They don't have RMRs or anything on them, so it's just regular iron sights. But yeah, they're not adjusting anything on the red dot. Now, granted, you have to, as a ranger instructor, you got to watch because they're still, at the end of the day, they're competing. So you got to be careful that these competitors don't like get up and like spin the dial as they're going to the next range, just to try to throw the next guy off. So our eyes are watching for stuff like that, but they're all zeroed by the RIs ahead of time. But yeah, there's a lot of guns this year. So that's why they kind of go through the shooting ranges. They're not just shooting our normal M4s and stuff like that. So this year, I think today it actually showed up. Veltor has these revolver style 6-shooter grenade launchers, and I was able to get him to bring 3 of them out to the competition. He showed up today. So
how do Jerry and I get to come down there and just test some of these weapons?
That's pretty awesome
with you. I don't want to keep them. I just want to play with them.
Well, some of these, I'm not going to give you my address, but some of these get left over and are in my gun safe after Best Ranger. So you just got to let me know.
That's sweet.
All right.
But yeah, I try to give most of it to the competitors, right? So most of those guns, like, then we also have fully auto Daniel Defense DDM4s on the range, right? So I'll take those 6 Daniel Defense rifles and I'll put them first, second, third place. They'll all get DDM4s. And then I'll take the Steyr rifles and I'll put them in first and second. They'll get $15,000 sniper rifles. And so that's how I build the prize table. I take all these weapons and I just build them down the table. Some of them I
That's
don't
awesome.
and then like I'll keep one or two of each usually, because the Tuesday after Best Ranger we do what's called the cadre picnic, and I'll actually raffle all my leftover stuff to the cadre. So
Let's go. Yeah.
yeah, so they usually the cadre get some guns, they get some ops cores, they get all the free swag. Like Vortex sent me boxes of like red dots for pistols and gun. Like if you saw my garage, it looks like a shot show blew up inside my garage. So, but yeah, so that's. But if you all want to come down and shoot some, you just gotta let me know.
Yeah,
I'll
shoot.
put you
All
in
right.
range.
Yeah.
HMK is here in Columbus, so
Yeah.
I
So
got
they
family
go to
in
the
Columbus.
they go to the range, and then what's the next day? Like, when do they actually start doing the physical stuff? Like,
So the competition will start Friday morning. 05 starts the opening ceremony. 5:30, 6 o'clock ish when the opening ceremony ends. That's when the shotgun just starts, and it starts with the unknown distance buddy run. So we picked up this a couple years ago in 2023. So we always had 52 teams is kind of where we were at. Back in 2023, the MCO decided, oh, we want to do 58 teams or 56. Well, that makes my job difficult because I resource, when I ask a company for items, I say I need to resource for 52 teams and then I want 10% overage. So if you're going to give me these items, I want 10% overage because I'll use what's for the comp and then the leftover I'll give away, prize table, stuff like that. Well, that year we had resourced for 52 teams plus overage, but then they upped the number of teams. And so the command's like, well, what's that do? Well, we can still run the competition, but what that does is your cadre is going to get nothing at the end because I have to give it to the competition. That's the priority. I only give what's left over to that. So that's when that year we decided, okay, well, we still want to do the best for the competition, but we also want to, still pay back to the RIs that are given their off time. Like they don't get as big of a break as 5th and 6th because they're running Best Ranger during their break. So what we did, that's when we started after the first 3 events, we'll cut down to 40 teams. So we can start, we can start with 50, 60 teams. I mean, really, me and the Colonel were talking about it today. You could start with 100 teams because we're going to cut to 40 anyways at 9 o'clock in the morning on Friday. So they're going to do their first 3 events, and then we're just going to chop it down to 40. And so now when it comes to the next part, so the first 3 events are all physical. There's no shooting. So it's, the run, swim, run, the unknown distance buddy run. There's another event that killed people last year. It was really hilarious. So basically they had to run, I think it was like 5 miles, but they had to carry water cans. Every time they set the water cans down, they had to run back to the start and come back.
Holy crap, dude.
so you got it to where people would like, once they finally made it across the finish line, they're just standing there with the water cans like, can I put them down now? Because they, if you drop those water cans right before the finish line, you're running back. So,
Dude, that's crazy.
yeah.
So what are they? I mean, how far are they actually running at the end of that? It's more than 5 miles, right? If they're
it's way
Jeez,
more. I mean, you got to think like the unknown distance run is usually somewhere around like 4, 5, 6 miles. Run, swim, run is you're running from camp down to the pond, swimming the pond, coming back, running back up. Then you're picking up those water cans and you're running another 5+ miles. So those first 3 events, like, go ahead and sign up for Best Ranger. It's fun, but those first 3 events are going to measure you quick.
Well,
so
you get a lot of guns though.
Yeah.
Hey, so is it like I'm just saying, is this continuous, right? There's not much. They're going into the buddy run, and they're going right into the next event, to the next event, to the next event, right? There's not a lot of like rest time to change socks or something. I don't know. Like, is there a lot of that time in between?
So there's usually like sometimes there'll be a backup at a range, right? So you'll get to a range, and if you're not the number one team, you might be in line. So you have like a little bit of a hold at that range. You can change your socks, stuff like that, real quick. But really, up until like night hold or the hold before the ruck, like there's certain events they have to all start together, like the ruck and stuff like that. So at those points, there's holds waiting for everybody to finish the stuff before. Last year we started the Ranger Reckoning. So after the first three events, basically there was 12 to 15 lanes, like ranges. And the colonel was like, instead of doing this range and everybody do the same route, he basically was like, these are your 15 ranges. Have them done by 5.
Mm.
And so didn't matter the order you went in, didn't matter. You just had to get them done. So at that point, so then it's taking a lot more gaming. You're running to this range, but this one's got a backup. So do I want to run a mile to that range and then come back to this one, and a lot more planning and stuff like that. So that's like wears people down. And then after that ends, now everybody's done at 17, 1800. Now you have a little bit of a hold before they're going to go to the unknown distance ruck or night, unknown distance ruck, and then another hold, night stakes. And then after night stakes, now they'll get to bed down, they'll get night hold, get 4 hours of sleep, and then wake back up for Saturday and start day 2. And then day 2 just goes. It's you'll do the CrossFit games is what I call it. It's the strongman and the obstacle course type things. Like this year I got a rogue system that they got to go through.
Nice.
But they'll wake up from night hold and they'll fly to building 4 where they'll fast rope in. The first team will fast rope in, and then they'll start the lane. And then the next team will come in, fast rope in, and then they'll start. And they'll just go through all the different lanes. And once they're done there, then they fly out to Selby where they're going to do the FPV drone / CQB.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. This year's the first year we ever got drones. We actually, this one thing is actually the one I really want to see, but I never get to see the competition because I'm always doing things. I've never actually watched the competition because I'm doing all the socials. I'm plugging holes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But this year we got this really cool, it's called drone round. So when the commander was like, I want to shoot drones out of the sky this year, like there's drones as a threat. I want to shoot drones out of the sky.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, okay, so my brain is like, I'm going to go get shotguns. I started looking for shotguns. We're just, let's just shoot drones with shotguns. Super easy. And then while I was at shot show, I ran into this drone round, which is this company. And it's a 5.56 round that can shoot out of any 5.56 platform. When it comes out the barrel, it turns into 8 projectiles. So it's meant so that you shoot it on full auto, and as those rounds come out and turn into 8 projectiles, you're creating a sheet of metal, basically. Like you're just here's a whole bunch of birdshot coming out of a fully auto 5.56. So I ran into them, and so they weren't yet.
Dude, it's a good way for industry to show that, like you're saying, to showcase their stuff, man. Because I work in that field too right now, so like I can see some vendor be like, I'm jumping all over this, man. It's like this is a new. The Army's gonna like this. They're gonna see this round do this. It's gonna bring me. That's pretty awesome.
Well, and think about it, really. When else, right? So even if you're a vendor at SHOT Show, right, you have a chance that someone from the 82nd or USASOC comes by your booth, but you can't guarantee it. But at the Best Ranger competition, when I'm putting your item on display being used by the best soldiers in the Army, where every command team is there cheering for their team, well, guess what? Now you're getting your product in front of the commands.
Showcase, man.
Yeah,
better work. It better work.
Yeah. So that's what makes it fun too, and that's what makes it fun finding these new companies too. Because now, like, since we brought Drone Round on, they've gone nuclear. Like they can't even. Luckily they make their own round, but they're producing 8 million rounds a month at this point. It's
Jerry, we could have used that in Afghanistan. Think about that.
100%, man. 100%. So that's pretty awesome. So,
So real quick, talking about all the vendors and stuff, and by no means do I think our podcast will possibly reach that, but maybe it will. If somebody wants to get in touch with you, like, do you have a quick blurb, like whatever? How does somebody get in touch with you if I've got this Gee Whiz Bang thing that I'd like to give away?
So usually you can go to either the National Ranger Association webpage, which has
Okay.
my contact information at the bottom, or we
Yeah.
also have the Best Ranger Competition Facebook .com, which is also a
Okay.
webpage. And people can go there, and it has a spot to email me.
Okay.
It's
Well,
honestly, for companies, if my phone number's on there, it's honestly best to text or call, because
okay.
just prime example, yesterday between 9 a.m. and we'll say 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. because I was still getting phone calls up to 11 o'clock last night. I had 94 people call me.
Nice. Okay.
But emails, I get about 150 a day. But phone calls, I get
Yeah.
back to immediately because everybody has their phone on them.
Sure.
So Trent, do you got to
Well-
run this? Is it a brigade? Is it RTB's brigade commander? Is he the boss of this thing, or who? What rank?
He's
OIC or
so it's the
Either.
Airborne Ranger Training Brigade's competition, but technically it's the MCO's competition. So MCO owns it. So General Thule, it's General
Right.
Thule,
Yep.
K1, they own it. Last year is a lot driven by K1. This year still driven by K1 a lot, but Colonel Lindsay now has the power to make a lot of those decisions. And he has, so it's owned by ARTB, but it's really, MCO. But
So do you have to say, hey man, I got this like shotgun round we're gonna put in the comp? You have to go to him and he signs off on it, or is that just something?
so it's yes, but at the same time, like me, Colonel Lindsay, and Sergeant Major Hartung have a really close relationship.
Yeah.
So like when we're sitting in the IPRs, and since I'm local, I sit in all these IPRs. So me and him are bouncing ideas off of each other. Sergeant Major Hartung, love the man to death. He is probably one of the best sergeant majors I've ever worked for, and I'm not even in the Army anymore. But he's so much fun because he just goes down these rabbit holes. Like, it's hilarious. And these IPRs turn into like 7-hour IPRs because we're just having fun planning Best Ranger. Like, I'm not joking you. At one point,
Quillen Range guys.
Yeah.
Here. 2 Starlings.
2 Starlings.
Did you-
I haven't set them up. I'll bring them to him later.
They're outside.
Okay, give me one time off here. Sorry, it never stops.
Got to get the
Oh,
Starlinks,
you're
man.
good. Yeah.
Hey, that's what Starlinks make the world go round these days.
Yeah.
Bro.
Well, so that was one of my things, is like viewing Best Ranger, totally off topic, but I'll tell you about that in a little bit. But so with Colonel Lindsay and myself and Sergeant Major Hartung, at one point, I'm not joking you, they wanted me to find a way to resource horses. All right, because this is how this conversation happened. So day 3, they're gonna jump into they always get inserted waterborne, jumping out of the helicopter,
Yeah.
into victory. So they're gonna swim to the shore, they're gonna get on a Zodiac, and they're gonna paddle the Zodiac around Victory Pond. Right, when they get out of there this year, there's going to be a bow and arrow, and they're going to actually do a bow and arrow because we're kind of doing some old school things since it's 75 years and we're kind of still spinning off the 250th of the Army. Well, I brought up the funny idea, like, all right, how about instead of getting out of the Zodiac and then running through the woods shooting a bow and arrow, let's do an old school drive-by, and one guy's paddling while the other guy's shooting targets off the Zodiac on the side. And it went from that to then Sergeant Major Hartung's like, maybe we can get them to ride horses and shoot bow and arrows. And then it was like, let's get them to ride horses to the finish line. And it's like, and so I thought they were joking. And then they're like, no, let's do this. And I'm like, okay.
I mean, how do you prepare for this? Like, I understand like the physical aspects of this thing, but dude, like if I'm a young, I'm a young lieutenant with like a sergeant first class or whatever, we're training. They're like, you're gonna have to I've never rode a horse in my life, or I've never shot at it.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. Like,
yeah, I mean, you prepare, you physically train up, and I'll be honestly, the trick is, unfortunately, like teams that are like, this is their first time competing, unless they're in a good system, like that. I'm gonna be honest, like it's gonna be a very struggle for them to make it through. The
Yeah.
teams that you see that are super competitive are the ones that have at least one person that's competed before, right?
Okay.
Because for the most part, some of the lanes will stay the same. Like the 3 gun is gonna be pretty close to the same every time. You know, the Derby Queen or the Derby Queen, Malvesi, Prusik climb, some of those historical events, they don't change. But then you can kind of fill it out, like, right, like Colonel Lindsay's first uh BRC was last year. This one is a little bit different, but still the same system. Added a few new things, but you can kind of fill that out. Now, when Colonel Green signs in this summer, now it's going to be something different, right? So you kind of, it's best to have at least one person on your team that's competed. You need that knowledgeable ranger and
Yeah.
then the just strong, good teammate ranger. So
Yeah.
Is there like
What's-
is there a lot of challenging going on? Like, do guys like teams challenge the? They're like, yeah, because I'm just thinking, yeah, I'd be there, yeah, dude, whatever, challenge that, whatever. Like, is there a lot of that? Is it like who is
And
it? The
then-
ranger instructor handle that? Is there like certain dudes that duel around?
And then
or, like,
along, if I can tag on to that real quick, and then what's the craziest thing you've ever seen happen? Because it might be the same thing, right? With a crazy challenge or something, like, oh no, I hit that target or whatever.
I had a couple years ago, 2023 was my first year as I wasn't in the S5. I just newly got to, or 2022, not 23. The team that won, um we call it reclama. You know, they reclama
Yeah.
a range or is reclama the right word? I don't know, brain fart because I've been up for too many hours. But they'll challenge it. That challenge goes to the RI on the lane first. That RI will then take it. You know, if he can't solve it right there, he'll take it to the lane PI. The lane PI will then take it to. If it goes up, it can go all the way up to the command team. But yes, these guys are gamers. Like no shit. They are listening to what you say, and if there's anything they can work it around, they're gonna challenge it. And like one of the funniest things, one of my favorite videos was in 2022. One of the mystery events was a mystery box, and it had a lock on it, and it had like you had to read through this book to find the code, and then you had to break it, and then get in, and then you had to decipher something else. And but what they never said was how you got in the box. They just said decipher it, get in the box. And this ranger from 5th RTV just grabs the box and is like, I got this.
Jeez.
And that's still one of the most viewed videos ever because he's just
Nice.
like strong ranger and he broke the box. And then it's like, well, you didn't say I can't break the box. And so they're always looking. Like these guys are gamers and they're looking for the loopholes, they're looking for the edge. Because you got to think like this is the best of the best, and like
Yeah.
physically they're all this close. Like they're all this close. Like
Oh yeah. Yeah.
so it's like, how do I get my edge? All right, challenge everything. There was, I mean, I've seen like it was funny. Jen Gunn from the PAO. We were talking because NFL Hard Knocks is coming out this year.
Oh hell
And
yeah.
they were like, hey, can we put microphones on them? And Jim was like, yeah, probably, you know, I don't, you know, we'll see about that. And then I brought up the comment later after the conversation. I was like, you gotta understand, like, if these guys get mics on them, we need them to sign something saying that they're not going to reclama something based off their mic getting in the way because they will use that 100%. She's like, well, we'll mic up 75th because they're not gonna, they probably don't challenge that much. And I was like, they challenge more than anyone.
Yeah. There's a lot of
Like-
pressure for those guys, like I said earlier.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. They're every lane, if they're like, if they don't get a good score, they're challenging it. And some
Yeah.
they win, some they don't.
So hard knock. I remember when these things used to be on ESPN. Like they
Yeah.
used to have like
Yeah.
this was like a Nashville. It was a televised event.
Yeah.
You know.
Hey, so speaking of that real quick, I saw on the website you can live stream this, correct?
Yeah, so we will be live streaming. So the National Ranger Association runs the live stream off the Best Ranger YouTube. In the past, what it usually was just a couple former winners running around, talking and filming. This
Yeah.
year, thanks to EA Entertainment, we upgraded our live stream, and we're gonna have kind of a sports center red zone style live stream. So actually,
Okay.
you know, the Colonel's image was like, hey, you ever seen College Game Day? I want a College Game Day stage with former winners or someone up there talking the event and the
Yeah.
event going on behind them.
Yeah, definitely.
And so of course they're like, well, I don't know how we do this to the Army. So, hey, Petty, figure this out. And I'm like, okay, all right, I can do this. So
Did you
here
call
we
Kirk
are.
Herb Street?
No, I did what every smart man does. I got on Facebook Marketplace and I found a MKT 85 for $1,500 in Mississippi, and I purchased the MKT. It is now sitting outside of at Malvesti. I put a skirt. I opened it up. I put a skirt around it to cover up the things, and it's a mobile trailer for the
Yeah.
live stream stage. And so this year, for the first time ever, I have Vince Payowski, who is a 2021 winner, and then we're going to have donors get up and people that come, and we're going to talk. And that trailer is going to move to different locations. And we were able to. I hired this kid from the fire department he's a really good kid, and he wants to be in this type of industry. And so we came up with buying some, you know, switches and some other things. And now on YouTube, you'll have the one guy that Blaine Reeves, who he runs one of the videos, and you have Jay Brend, who these two guys are former winners, and they still, I mean, I'm not saying they're old, but they're pretty old, and they're still running with these competitors, and they run the whole thing. So they're still going to be doing that, but you can switch onto their YouTube, which is still under our Best Ranger YouTube, to watch just one of them, or you can switch to the third one, which is going to have the red zone. So it's going to have the trailer with Vince in the top corner talking at whatever part of the event he's at, and then you'll have YouTube 1 and 2 on the same screen below him, so he can talk about the different live streams. And then for the first time ever, we're actually going to post the live updated scoring, because that's one of the things people always complain about is scoring comes out every 10 hours.
I only see it when it's on the Facebook page.
And that's the only way
it.
That's the only way it ever came out. So I do have to say, like, this is unofficial scoring because IMCO has to be the official release of the scoring.
Yeah.
But it will be live and updating. You'll see teams bouncing, moving. And it'll be fun because you'll see like why teams jump so much, right? Because they're hitting certain ranges that have more points, so on and so forth. And then instead of just 5 hours later, you see 15th place go to second, you're going to actually see it climb and move and all that. So this will be the first year ever we've done that.
So for everybody listening, again, go to the Best Ranger YouTube page, correct?
Yep.
Right. You'll be able to find the live stream there. And just make sure make sure y'all got that little disclaimer rolling down at the bottom. This is not official. This is not official. The 173rd will win. I promise you. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean,
no?
Sure. They might. I don't know.
I will say
real quick. Sorry. Actually, I take that back. The first Arbor team is going to win. You know why I'm saying that, Jerry? This one's directed at you. Because one of our old PLs is competing.
Really? Who is that?
Now, Captain Jerron Orton.
Oh, nice.
He is actually team number 1 this year.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a super nice guy. Actually, he came up to me after the brief when they're getting released for lunch. Came up and he just wanted to thank me for everything I do for the competition. So I know exactly who you're talking about. Super nice guy.
Yeah, he's a great kid.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of good teams out there. The 173rd team, I was joking around with them earlier. They got an E4 in there. You know, I love seeing E4s compete. I think the old guard might have an E4. Like, you know, you love to see the younger guys just go for it.
What's your thoughts on? I know this was like a big topic too. Is like there should always be one officer and one NCO. Like, you have heard that. Then some people say, no, man, it should be the best. Like, I'm kind of like it should be the best. I don't know, man, but to represent the division, you know, sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like for me, like I'm a competitor, right? So if you're tired of 2 lieutenants winning, then beat them, you know? So like, and at the end of the day, like they still put in waivers. So there's still a bunch of 2 officer teams, but like, you know, I'm an NCO, and at the end of the day, like I haven't competed, so I'll be honest about that. But if I'm anything I've ever done, whether it's against my PL or the company commander, like I'm not letting you win. And or I'm
Yeah.
gonna die trying. You might win, but I'm gonna give you 150%. So like at the end of the day, if two PLs is what if two lieutenants win, two lieutenants win. If two E4s win, then hey, they were the best men, you know. But
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, you still have to show up ready and compete, you know. And there's so many factors that go into that. Not to divert, but like in 2023, 2023, there was a team from ARTB that I was positive was going to win. Like I was positive. They had this Captain Gerhardt, and then Sergeant Ski, both just freaks of nature, just superhumans. They finished 16th overall, and everybody's like, "Man, why they were 16th?" You know what nobody does know is, you know, because like any sport, you want to peak at the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Well, one of their teams, I won't say who it was, unfortunately didn't peak at the playoffs. He ended up actually having rhabdo before Best Ranger started. So this
Damn.
dude was pissing blood for 3 days and
Yeah.
finished 16th. So you never know. Like you may be the best,
Yeah.
but like you have to time it right. And then,
Ye-
you know,
I was going to ask you that too, because like I know medical support's a big deal, right? Like there's probably you probably see a lot of like ankle injuries, probably see back, probably see heat exhaustion, whatever that is, man.
Torn
But
muscles.
torn muscles, like I could have met like you probably see some dudes that are like pulling like they just not going to quit, man. And like, what do you guys have a measure of like, hey man, this guy's like he's gonna kill himself if he keeps going? Do you guys just pull him out, or like is there? Because I know these guys, man, they're gonna go if they had a broken leg, you know.
Oh yeah, there's times I think last year there was a team that the command team had to pull them. They're like, "You're done. Like, sorry, you can't continue. They're just in that bad of shape, you know." And you see people pull up all the time. I remember a couple years ago, a sergeant major who had already finished in the top 3 the year before was expected to finish top 3 or win again. Good dude, but his partner got hurt in the first 3 events, and so. So I remember Sergeant Major being like, "There's no way this team should be in 50th place." Well,
Yeah.
he had a guy pull his calf at the beginning of the competition. You know, Briggs from 2016. You know, he won, or not 16. He won 2013 and he won 2015. But in 2014, I don't know the whole story, but either him or his partner had something happen. You know, and so he wasn't, you know, like didn't win. Because at the end of the day, like you still have both of you have to be good enough. Like you
that
both
would
have to be
suck,
healthy.
man. Like train that whole time and then one of your guys just hurt, and you're like, shit,
Yeah.
I want to keep going, man. But
All right.
do they are these guys like when they prep, right? I know Chris is a big CrossFitter, like he's CrossFit's galore, right? Like, is it more that style, like build, or is it like the big dudes, it's the small guys? What do you like? What do you typically see? It's like I guess it'd be a mixture of all kind of that, but what is
Well,
like?
so normally it's small guys. Usually it's
Yeah.
skinny, fast. But we were actually sitting there today. Today we were kind of just looking across, and I'm giving out their competitor shirts. I'm giving out all their shirts and stuff. And I gave a lot of extra larges this year. I'm not joking. Like we were just sitting there, man. There is some beefy guys this year. You know, and like even I think the ROTC team they have, I think his name's Sergeant First Class Megan. You know, that dude he's on social media. I think somebody told me he was like 280 when he started training. Now he's like 240, and you're like, man, he's still huge. But somebody's like, yeah, but a 240 Megan is fast, and that was some regiment guy that told me that. But yeah, there were some beefy ones this year because things have changed. You know, you do have to be fast, but you know they've added in the strongman. There's the Atlas balls. There's a skinny guy ain't carrying water cans 5 miles and not dropping them 10 times, so now it kind of adjusts the playing field as things are adjusting. So
I would still ask for the extra small. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Dude, I just think that it's incredible, man. Like like I couldn't even imagine like on the backside of that, like what these guys are just like, they're just feed up with ice and for like 3 days or whatever, man. Just resting up an ice bath.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've seen it. Like, there's dudes that finish and like being the top 16 and finishing because only 16 teams finish is a huge accomplishment. I mean,
Yeah.
Sig this year is literally giving up a gun to every finisher. So 32 guns down the table, every finisher, because it's a 16th place is still a huge feat. But I've
Yeah.
seen multiple times at the Super Supper where these guys come across the finish line. We get them all cleaned up and they come in to eat to get their prizes. And then you're just sitting there watching these dudes cramping up at their table. They're like trying to eat and they're like, I can't feel my leg. And, you know, they're leaving the Super Supper. I've seen times where guys have left the Super Supper, they gave it 110%, and then they spent 4 or 5 days in the hospital recovering from rhabdo, you know. So, I mean,
So,
and
okay,
it's bad.
who, if I can, I'd like to ask who are your top like 3 to 5 contenders you think since you've seen the teams now today, right?
Yeah.
So who do you think right now, just based off of appearance, demeanor, like
Oh
if you
man,
were a bet
that's
man?
tough. That's tough. I mean, you never bet against Regiment, right? So
No.
they do have a guy that placed fourth last year, right? So
Okay.
they have a guy who's on a team, so he placed fourth, and he came back and he's got a teammate. So it's hard to bet against that. That's experience plus obvious skill. Um, oh man, it's hard to say. I do think there's a 173rd team that will do pretty good. I'm
Okay.
cheering for them. Um, there's an 82nd team that I've been watching. I think they're pretty good, and then the 101st team. Well, probably pretty much 101st had a few good teams. They have some good coaches. They have Sergeant Major Klein, who's competed a couple times. They have another guy, Captain Moore, who's finished and been in the top three a couple times. That was coaching. So they have a couple teams that look really good.
So
And then
so each team has a coach. Is that what you just said? Just to clarify, is like that they travel like the coaches with them.
yeah, their coaches will travel with them because part of that is like this year, because since they can have a sustainment bag that they can get into at night, that coach is helping them decide how you want to pack out your sustainment bag,
Yeah.
how you want to prep for these things. They're going to competitors week with them, coaching them on the lanes. And then once the competition starts, there's no contact from the coaches. Like they're not allowed, they're not supposed to. Now, granted, every year we catch coaches hiding in the wood lines or trying to run next to them or who knows what,
That'd be Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then a few teams, some of the teams I mentioned, like 101st, Old Guard, some of these teams, they were smart. And you have like Vince Payowski, who's in the live stream, him, and you have Luke Ebeling, who runs Atlas Solutions, both former winners. Well, what they do for a living now is create training programs. So a lot of these teams got training programs or get training programs from these former winners that are just freaks of natures, right? So that's kind of I wouldn't rule out any team that has working with like Vince and Luke's plans, because if you're gonna get it from the guys that know how to do it.
Did you? So this is an interesting topic, but you had a female engineer last year that finished in top 10 or something, wasn't she?
Yeah.
She was
Lieutenant,
like lieutenant. I think she was lieutenant or officer or something, or was she
yeah,
an NCO?
Lieutenant Gabby White. Yeah, she actually finished in the top 16.
Nice.
So she was the first woman to ever compete and the first one to actually finish. And she's actually coaching the third ID team this year. So
Oh, that's dope.
There you go.
she was out there today, and
Yeah.
and she's a phenomenal leader and competitor. Like, it was crazy. Like, you didn't even realize a girl was out there because she was just blending in with the guys and just and doing it. And then even after it, like, I give her props because I had companies reaching out. I had CBS and ABC and NBC were all calling me like, "Hey, we get a hold of Gabby or Lieutenant White?" And I was like, I'm sorry, she doesn't want to talk. Like, she didn't want all the recognition. She,
Mhm.
she just wanted to be one of the
Yeah.
guys. So she was like, so she didn't take any of the extra, no interviews. She didn't, there was prizes offered to her by companies like, we'll give this to the first winner and keep it for or first female and give it to every female ever. And, she was like, she did good and she crushed it. But, for her, she wanted to win. And and she didn't want to, bring all that light to herself. So I give her props. She's a very quiet professional. So,
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I don't know if you know this question, but like is there recruiting going on in these things?
um,
I'm just saying if I was like a regiment guy and I saw some kids wrong, like trying to
yeah, so like this year we do have like the RSoft recruiting is
yeah.
out there this year. We have had recruiting out there because we try to do some things on day 2. We do like a vendor day where all my vendors come and they set up, all the supporters set up and give away free stuff. And then like we did a meet the army. So this year we're doing a meet the army again along with the vendors. But yeah, there's some recruiting, and I actually one of the RIs, we got in an argument a few weeks ago, probably a couple months ago now, but he's like, no one has ever joined the army because they watched Best Ranger. And I was like, well, that's actually 100% false. Um, there's actually a kid in regiment now who, from the time he is 10 years old until 18, him and his mom came every year to Best Ranger and watched it. And then when he turned 18, he joined the army, went to RASP, and he's in regiment. So, you know, there may
Yeah.
not be a lot of people, but there's some. So,
Yeah, but it's gonna. I would say
Yeah.
like some kid that's like, or some young NCO or officer that's swaying that doesn't know if they're good enough to get into that, and then they end up finishing in the top, whatever, and like, oh, this big, motivational boost that I can do it and I can go to those organizations
Yeah.
is
yeah.
important. How do you guys determine? Because I saw like 82nd has like 5 teams, and I think whatever 101st has this many. How do you guys determine how many division, like each division gets how many teams?
A
You
lot of
know?
it, and it comes down to K1 right now. K1 makes that decision. A lot of
Yeah.
it plays into history, right? Like how well they do in the competition, how many, the size of the unit, stuff like that. So that's why you see like the 82nds, the 101st get, 4 teams instead of 2 or 3. And then you get teams like Seaburn or ROTC that you usually only get like 1. Just because one, the size of the unit, but just also history. I mean, at the end of the day, like,
Yeah.
uh, uh, a team that a unit that doesn't have regular participation in BRC, it's once again like they usually, not to say they're going to, but usually they get knocked out in the first 3 events just because of the experience, right? Like the 82nds, the 101st, even though some of them still need to work on their plans on how they do things, they have the experience and the knowledge within their units. Like some of those advisors in the 82nd I talked to were former winners, right? So they have that knowledge base. So the history and the size of the units and stuff like that. So,
Is there any strategy in this? Is there like can you have any kind of
Oh yeah.
strategy? Can you plan
oh
this?
Scouting.
yeah.
Like, how do you? I mean, I guess there's only 2 of you, so how do you kind of work through? How do you
Well,
strategize that?
I mean, different lanes require different things. Some guys are better shooters, certain things, the sniper range, you've got a bolt action versus, the spotter is going to be on the traditional rifle. So trying to pick out who's a better spotter, stuff like that. But then even just obstacle courses and stuff like that. There's a lot of gaming that goes on
Oh
and
yeah.
strategy. It's a very strategic thing. So yeah.
I couldn't even imagine too, man. Like within Ranger Regiment, uh, like you're competitive to beat the rest of the team, the field, right? But then you
Yeah.
get up there and you're competing against guys from Ranger Regiment too, and they're like usually those guys are like in the top 5, 10,
Yeah.
usually. So it's like
Yeah.
that's take that shit back home and talk shit all day kind of thing. So I
Well,
don't know.
in all honesty, like too, and not to say this, but just look over the history of the competition and look at the placements and look at how many winners are from regiment, and then look at how many people have won or placed high that are from a different unit, but were originally in regiment.
Yes.
So you see a lot of well, not as much now that you don't see the combat patches as much anymore, but you'd see a lot of combat patch scrolls with IMCO on one side or whatever the unit be. You got a lot of RTB guys, a couple of them are
Yes.
former regiment guys. 180 173rd, 82nd, 101st, they're all stacked with former regiment dudes, especially the officer world. The captains, it's usually someone that was like probably a
Yep.
lieutenant in regiment, and then they got out to their unit and they're like, oh, I'm going to compete for the 101st or whatever the case may be. So, I mean,
If you go down there, if someone's like listening to this and they wanted to go down and take a trip down there, are the lanes open for like people to come check
Yeah.
this out, or like they?
Yeah, the whole competition is open to the public. So it's on base. The last 2 years, this year and last year, have both been on base. 23 and 24, we did day 2 off base in Columbus at the by the Civic Center at the AJ McClung, so that the whole Columbus community could come and see it. But anybody, as long as you can get a pass on base, you can come see it. So it's
Nice.
open. It's roped out so that spectator area, media area. And then if people want to be donors, like you don't have to donate very much to get to enjoy the donor portion of it. We have from Friends of the Rangers, which is $100 to $249. Then we have bronze, which is $250 up to a thousand. And then we have silver, gold, so on and so forth, all the way up to supporter 6, which is $20K plus. But all those supporters get to come to all the social events at night too, and that's what I do a lot of. So once I've passed off all the guns, I've plugged every hole that I could possibly plug. I shift over and I start doing the social events. And
Yeah,
so
are you the? I'm sure you get man. I'm sure you get some high vis VIPs for this thing, right? Are you like meet and greet, like walking around with those dudes? Like say like the Sergeant Major of the Army is probably going to come. I guess I would say I don't see why you wouldn't, but
no, I don't really mess with the Army VIPs too much unless they reach out to me and ask questions.
Yeah.
I let ARTB handle the Army VIPs, but in all honesty, like most of the Army VIPs don't want to be escorted around. They just want to come
Yeah.
watch it, and they have their own
Yeah.
aides and stuff. They don't want to be escorted. There's some pretty, decent, command teams coming, and they're not requesting for VIP assistance. I more deal with after I pass everything off, then I shift to focus to all the vendors and supporters, because like Thursday night, it's an event that's open to the public. I rent out Uptown Tap in downtown Columbus, and I host what's called the Black and Tan Social. It's a great event. This year, it's going to be on the Outdoor Network with Spectrum and Charter. Outdoor Network's recording it. Jason the Butcher is coming to do a TV episode again this year. That's actually why I'm kind of tired today, because we were out hog hunting until 1 a.m. to try to kill hogs so that he could cook them for the Black and Tan event. With the Black and Tan, it's for all the vendors to come out, and then I invite the entire community, Ranger community or just community, to come. And it's a chance because, when I was in the Army and I was getting out, there's no way I was ever going to get a chance to run into, the Glock guys or the SIG guys or all these guys that like I'd love to work for these companies. So I host the Black and Tan, and it's brotherhood through business. And it's a chance for these guys to get face to face with some of these vendors that would love to hire them. Colt, SIG, Staccato, all those companies are filled with veterans. So it's my way to be able to give back to the community and get them in touch with people. And it's also my way to get the sponsors in touch with people that they want to hire. And just, a lot of times these sponsors just want to get the Ranger experience and hang out with Rangers and have a good time and have a few drinks and throw it back. And, and I get to sit there and I get to enjoy it. And I usually raffle off a bunch of free stuff and give op scores and all kinds of things for people showing up. So that's Thursday night. And then Friday night, we do what's called the icebreaker on base. That's invite only. It's for vendors and command teams. Command teams, if they come, they have to be in civvies. It's unofficial business.
yeah.
And I host another barbecue that's also, catered, live music, cornhole, and then we just hang out, and all the vendors along with command teams can just mingle. And then Saturday night, we do the donor social at the National Infantry Museum. It's a huge formal dinner, and it's basically so that I can recognize all the donors and give them their plaques, because we give some pretty badass plaques to the donors. And then Sunday's the super supper, and that's the magic. So the last 2 years, last year and this year, I've opened it up. It's not closed. So it used to be invite only to the super supper, but in the past, before it was invite only, it was open to the public. And so people could pile out at ARTB by the brigade and see the super supper, see the final ceremony. So last year I opened it back up to the public. I obviously get tables for the supporters, but then there's also standing room for anybody that just wants to pile into the NIM. I make sure to order enough food that everyone can get some lickies and chewies and stuff, but they can all experience the magic, because once you've been to a super supper, a lot of times that's all it takes for somebody to be like, okay, I'm coming back next year. And that's why I tell like like when I was talking to Sergeant Major Rocky, I was like, you got teams competing, bring some non-ranger kids out here, come out, let them come see it. Like they're going to get a sight of it, they're going to see the magic of it, and
Want to go to Ranger school
and want to go to Ranger school. And so those are kind of the events that I run for the social events for all the vendors and stuff like that. And it's usually it's a lot of fun. So
sounds like a pretty awesome job, bro.
Yeah, it does.
I'm not gonna lie,
It does.
It's a pretty sick job, dude.
I'm telling you right now.
A firefighter's cool too. Don't get me wrong, but
I'm telling you right now, Jerry, we got to figure out how to take this show on the road. Okay?
yeah.
And you and I go down there, we shoot a few guns, eat some meat, and we just laugh at all those badass motherfuckers running out there while we're old and broke.
Do all those guys do a social at the end? Do they get together for like at the end of the competition, or are they just like, fuck it, I'm out, I'm going back to home station?
Yeah,
or they're just too broke.
Yeah, well, you have like some competitors that leave right after it. They're gone. Then you got some that stay and watch it and come to the Super Supper. I always laugh with them. I put it in my brief today. I laughed about because I was like, unfortunately for you guys, some of these supporters are going to want to talk to you when they see you, and be polite to them. Thank them for what they do for you guys, because they're giving their time and money for you guys. And I was like, but you're real easy to point out, because usually the guys that get dropped during day one show up to day two wearing the shirts that I gave them for free at competitor week. So they're super easy to point out, because they're wearing their competitor shirt that no one else can get. And so, but they stay and have a lot of fun and usually cheer on their other teams. And that's one of the things I was trying to get across to when I was talking to the 82nd team and some of these other teams, is like, it's not about you as a team winning, like you and your partner. It's about your unit winning. So when you're out there, don't just worry about you and your teammate, like motivate the other teams within your unit. If you go from one range to another range and you found something out about this range, pass that information along to your other team in your unit, because I know you really want to win, but if the 82nd wins or if the 101st wins, it's the pride of that unit, not just yourself.
Yeah.
And so that a lot of them stay if they have friends and other teammates, and they cheer them on and stuff like that. So
at the end, when was it the ruck run? Is that the final thing?
The buddy run at the
buddy
end?
run? That's the end, right? So they go, is the ceremony the same day as that, or is that like the next day kind of thing?
So
and do they, I guess my second question is, what kind, you said about the weapons, who chooses the weapons for the winner? Like, how do you know like what they're, because I saw usually it's like a 45 or an M4, I don't know, but how does that?
So I choose the weapons, but as far as the winner, so like the finish line is at the National Infantry Museum. We bring them around and we get them inside, and then we give them a chance to change. And then I give them a quick brief and congratulations and talk to them about the Super Supper. And then as soon as they've done their med checks and got cleaned up, then we start the Super Supper right there. That's the unofficial award ceremony, because it's now solely ran by the TNRA. ARTB is our guest, along with IMCO as our guest at that event, just because for legal purposes with all those prizes and all that money that's around there. So Sunday is the Super Supper, which is what people see as the actual ceremony of the champions. Then Monday they do an Army ceremony at Marshall Auditorium that morning.
Okay.
So you kind of have two award ceremonies: the one where they get all their fun stuff, their prize pistols, and then you have the one where they get their MS or their OSMs and call it a day.
Are you hauling all these weapons in your truck?
Just
joking.
Bro, I've definitely not smuggled like 60 weapons onto base in the last.
So ATF, you're watching.
I swear.
Yeah. Oh, I go and I have all these gun companies send these guns to my FFL, and then I go sign for them, and then I take them to the arms room, sign them into the arms room, and then after the competition, they bring all the guns back to me at the Super Supper. And then that's when I decide the prize table, to be honest with you. I'm sitting here like, okay, this guy's going to get these guns. This guy's going to get this guns. And usually what I do is I start with any item that's 32 or more, and I start at first place and I lay it all the way out. And it's a waterfall effect. So as I get less items, this 10th, So that way, when we're calling it off, we'll be like 11th through 16th gets this, 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 and this. 5th through 10th will get everything that 11 through 15 got, but they'll also get this. And then we get to like 1st through 3rd, and then it's like, and they get this and this and this and that. And like first place this year, if I had time to run down to my garage, I'd get them. But the new custom staccatos, unreleased P4Xs that no one else can touch, they're getting serial number 1 and 2.
Oh,
shit.
wow.
And
What is that? That's like how much per gun? That's like what, 25? I don't know.
How much?
2,500? I don't know how much.
Oh, that's not even close.
No, 10,000? I don't know. Yeah.
The I don't know what you call it, the test gun that they made for it sold for well ups of 75K.
God dang, dude.
And that's the prototype. And so these guys are getting 26. The serial number is 26 BRC01 and 26 BRC02.
Damn.
And then we had Staccato put gold triggers on them. I'll do a release of it later on social media. They're amazing. But so like those are the prize pistols for this year.
Is there a wall where they, I guess, is it on the trophy, or is it like a wall that each winner's the names, like 2026, whatever?
Yeah.
Chris.
So
Rowe, right?
Yeah. So we have out at ARTB, we have the BRC wall, but uniquely enough, I've been working with the National Infantry Museum, and we redid the Ranger Hall. And so we're actually going to release the new Ranger Hall this weekend during Best Ranger. And there's actually now going to be there's going to be a Best Ranger wall within the Ranger hallway. And I actually may or may not have gotten a third 26 BRC pistol that will be in that case, along with some other items. So,
dude, you're just crazy. That's crazy.
That's awesome.
Dude, like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Dude.
yeah.
I don't know, man. It's like it's such a. I think, man, Trent. I think you're the man for the job for it, though, bro. I think you're doing a hell of a job for it. Sounds like you're just busting your ass after coming back from like doing the sobriety thing, trying to figure out your path or what your point, your role in life is. Because I know, like all of us, I just retired. I'm still trying to figure that out, but I think you figured it out, man. And like it's pretty awesome, dude. And it's fun to watch, and hopefully more people watch this event, man. Like just get on and watch it, because premier athletes, dude. Incredible.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And honestly, it's firefighting was my dream. Like when I retired, I was like, I'm going to be a firefighter. I'm going to run into buildings. And I was chasing that. Like you always want to make your kids look up to you. Right. And I realized like they think it's cool their dad's a firefighter, but they already looked up to me. They didn't need me to run into burning buildings. And honestly, for me, Best Ranger really saved my life. The Ranger community did, because when I was at Bragg, and I won't go too far into it, but when I was at Bragg, I got to a point in my life where I was heavily drinking every day of the week, but I was a high performer. I was a top platoon sergeant. I was a brigade air. People didn't even know I drank. My company commander used to be like, "Hey man, we're going out for drinks. I know you don't drink, but you want to come with us?" And I would be drunk right there. I would have already drank a bottle. I could drink a handle and nobody would know it. And when I came down to Bragg, after leaving Bragg, my name was really good at Bragg. Everybody knew me. And, I've been there forever. And I came down to ARTB, and when you show up as a fat, drunk Ranger and you don't know anybody, it's very easy to get pointed out. And at the end of the day, like you have two choices, right? You can choose to continue down that path. And I probably wouldn't have made it to retirement. I probably wouldn't still be married. But instead, like your name is all you have. And so I had a great name at Bragg, and at Benning, I did not have a good name. My name was ruined. And so the only way to fix that was to fix myself. And I checked myself into Sud C and quit drinking that day. And so March 10th of this year was my 4-year anniversary. And to me, I owe that to the Ranger community, because
hell yeah,
I was not representing the Ranger community the way I should. And things were not going good. And now I get to give back to the Ranger community that saved my life and saved my marriage. So,
man, that's amazing. I couldn't be happier for you to be able to find your calling and to, I mean,
and the family too, man, and the family, because like you put them. I mean, I know your wife lived through that too, dude. So it's like,
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, man. Proud of you what you're doing, and proud of what you're devoted to the Ranger community. You're helping people out. You're like, just
Yeah.
being a guy that's they're just out there, man. So like I
Yeah.
said in the beginning, man, you're just a good human being, man. Take pride in that, dude, and just keep doing what you're doing, dude. I mean, I haven't talked
I
to you in
appreciate it.
forever,
Yeah, it's been a while.
but I still lurk in the social media and see it. So it's good seeing an old wife talking out there doing stuff. So Jack would be proud if he's probably listening in. But
Yeah.
it is what
Well,
it is.
I got a cool chance right before I retired. I got to introduce Jack at a Ranger grad, and it was the coolest thing ever. And I told the story about as we know, Sergeant First Class Callahan, who is a legend to all of us.
By the way,
And
Brady passed Jumpmaster School this week. By
I
the
know
way,
I saw that. Yeah. That was my last jump. When Brady came to airborne school, that was my number 65 jump, and I buried my wings, and I haven't
Yeah.
jumped since.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got to introduce Jack at Ranger School at Ranger grad, and I got to tell a little bit about Sergeant First Class Callahan and what he meant to all of us White Falcons. And so I love White Falcon for life. One day like 173rd will live up to it, but right now, so
Yeah, like it's true. It's true. I mean, it is. But hey, I'd like to, man, I'd like to get you on here, like one time and just tell your story, dude, because you got a pretty awesome story too, besides just all the Ranger stuff and the sobriety stuff. But there was a lot of other stuff that Trenton Petty's done prior to that. I knew that IED incident and all that kind of stuff. So like to hear all that kind of stuff, and we'll get you back on, man, and have you tell your story. But we just wanted to do this deep dive, bro, and understand it, because I didn't understand it too much. I know Chris, we're just we're like, hey, this would be the perfect dude. We know our best Rangers going on this week, and trying to get your guys' information out there. I know we're a small little feeding little channel that's starting to try to work things out, man, and try to help people out and try to listen to people's stories and give people a platform just to tell their stories or whatever. But yeah, man, I really appreciate seeing you, man, and talking to you. I know we don't want to be in here too much longer because you look tired as hell out there hog hunting last night and doing all this crazy fun work.
Yeah.
So we really appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's an honor to come on and talk with you guys. One, it's great to see you, Jerry. I ain't seen you in, it feels
probably don't recognize me with the beard, and then I got the hair going on, bro. So
right,
what's left of it. So
yeah, but no, I really appreciate it, and hopefully I can get the Ranger community to come over and watch this and get, and you guys, you can take off like a rocket ship and stuff, because it was great talking to you guys. So
yeah,
and I love talking about best Ranger, so I could talk forever about that. So
yeah, I'll probably see you around. You said you're gonna sleep tomorrow over there at the site all day, or what?
Yeah, so I have a building out there, and I put a cot, and usually tomorrow night, Thursday, I sleep out there. I get a little bit of sleep tomorrow night, but then usually Thursday night through Monday, I get about an hour and a half a night. So I almost fainted at Super Supper last year. I was going down, and I had to sneak in the back and get some food because I lost
and shit. Yeah,
I lost 15 pounds running Best Ranger because I was just going. I didn't eat. I was just like, I'll eat when I get done, and then I almost passed out. So
what are the
going to Ranger school again?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but what other? I know I'm trying to close this out, but what other events do the Ranger Association do besides Best Ranger? Like, what other things do you do? You guys do scholarships? Do you guys do is there other things that your association does besides just the Best Ranger piece?
Yeah, so our pillars are Best Ranger, the Ranger Hall of Fame, and the Distinguished Members of the Brigade. So we help with Ranger Hall. We used to host the Ranger Hall of Fame, but now Ranger Legacy with Candace Bryant, who used to run the TNRA, she now helps run that, and we help her with that. But that's really her main mission now, or part of it. But we do Ranger Hall of Fame and DMOB, and then we try not to step on too many associations' toes, because one thing I noticed when I took over as director was every association tries to have scholarships. Every association tries to do this and be able to say they did that. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I don't need to run a scholarship program. Let me, for example, the contract I did with EA Entertainment, which is our biggest contract this year, they gave me a crap ton of money. But I only took a small portion, just like 25 grand, to put towards Best Ranger, because that's all I really needed for Best Ranger. The much larger portion, we promised off to 15% of it goes towards Ranger scholarships, 15% goes towards Gold Star Ranger hunts, And then 10% will go towards the new Ranger Community Center that the Ranger Legacy is trying to stand up. And then the rest of the percentage, I put in a contract that will go towards Rangers in emergency by request. Because I was like, like we can use this money for good, or we can use it just to blow it on whatever we want. I was like, but at the end of the day, like I remember being a private that was an E1 for 2 years because I had a mouth on me and I was a newlywed and I just did whatever I wanted. And I was lucky to not get divorced, but I went through some troubles, and I want to be able to, like, if a ranger is going through a divorce and he's struggling, if he can't afford to pay his rent and pay his mortgage and stuff, I can't take it off for a whole year. But if I can give him a breathing room for a month, ranger can request it for by emergency, then that helps one kid not take a step that he doesn't need to take, and lifts him up. So that's really the direction we're heading and that's why we're trying to make Best Ranger as big as we can, because it is the largest platform for the Ranger community. And if we're not using it to help the community as a whole, then we're just wasting our time. So
Yeah.
And they can find that on the website.
so the donations on the website, but really when it comes to like Ranger scholarships, I send that money to other Ranger units to give to their scholarships. Like Ranger Memorial gives a great Ranger scholarship. USARA, 75th Ranger Regiment. You have Lead the Way Fund. All these others. So it's like, why muddy the waters and create our own scholarship? And why don't we just give money to those scholarships so that they can continue to do the good work that they do? So,
Nice.
yeah.
All right, guys. You want to close it out, Chris? You got anything?
No, I think y'all said it best, man. Thanks, Trent, for coming on. I couldn't say anything else. It's amazing, the story. I wish y'all nothing but the best of luck this weekend, and may the best team win.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate you guys having me out. And hey, you guys got a year to plan to be out here next year. So
Yeah. Hey, for anybody out there, if you enjoyed this podcast, please give us a like and subscribe or whatever. I don't know if that's probably more of a subscribe because we're on YouTube, but we're also on Spotify and Instagram. So give us a like, give us a support. And we have some really good stuff coming up in the plate, some really good guests. So hopefully Trenton will come back, and then we're growing, but we're getting there, and we appreciate everybody's support. So thank you all.
thanks,
All right.
guys. All right.
All right.